The physical inspections start when you walk through the front door at the open home. I encourage you to start them as you're standing out on the street before you go into the open home. Take a 360-degree video of the street and observe on a Saturday what cars are parked up and down the street. Observe the types of gardens and how kept they are. Observe the pavement. You can notice that this pavement looks pretty damp. There's a bit of moss growing and it doesn't seem to get a lot of light. There's some cracks in it. Start observing. Start looking at the property from the letterbox and work your way in, really. Gates, the front gates. Start looking there. I recommend you video everything. So that's where your physical research of a property begins. It could even begin before the open home. Like if you've got some time on your hands, I certainly recommend doing drive-bys and having a look at the properties at different times of the day. If you've got a particular neighbourhood that you're inclined to want to be purchasing in. And having a look at school times. You're buying a home near a high school and it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon and you're going to know about it. So Saturdays are a different story, aren't they? So that's important. With the attending open homes offer a valuable opportunity to gauge your competition firsthand as you'll see other buyers looking at similar properties. You know what it's like. You go along to open homes. It's like, oh, you were here as well. I saw you at the last 2. So after you've attended a few open homes, you'll get a real-time feel for the market and make informed decisions when preparing to submit your offers. And so if the home's unoccupied and you're at the open home and it's staged for sale, feel free to explore open cupboards. If you want to get into pulling open drawers, looking into the oven, turn the oven on, avoid turning on the hot plates because you don't want somebody to come along and burn themselves or put some documents on there. That's one that you need to be cautious about. But otherwise, get in there, turn on the taps, flush the toilet, turn on the shower and watch where the water flows, turn on the exhaust fans in the ceilings of the rooms, turn on the ceiling fans, different levels. Sometimes they will just go on, a ceiling fan might just work on 1 speed. So check it, check the air conditioning, does cooling and heat. This all takes time. How you can do this in half an hour is difficult. There's questions you can ask of the real estate agents to help streamline this process. You can say to the real estate agent, is there anything I need to know about the property that needs work, that's not working properly? And we're talking about things like the air conditioning system, the pool pump, the hot water system. The agent might I never noticed that the hot water system's got a leak in it. So you can't rely on them to point those sorts of things out to you. However, if someone is still living in the house, be respectful when opening cupboards and taking videos and photos. I always think it's a great plan to make sure you say to the sales agent, it's another way to build your relationship with them. Say to the sales agent, really interested in this property. Do you mind if I take some videos? If there's no one living in the property. And if there is someone living in the property, you must ask the question. Just play things by the sales agent's rules. You need to develop that relationship with the sales agent the first time that you meet them. If you are genuinely interested in the home, let the sales agent know in no uncertain terms. Let them know. Don't be coy. Don't be like, yeah, let them know. Don't say you're in love with it. Don't say, oh my gosh, I've always wanted to live in this street. Let's keep the emotion out of it, but make no bones about it that you're interested. You should definitely be upfront and let them know that you're working with a buyer's coach or that you're doing this program, because that is going to tell them that you are serious. You're working through this methodically and they'll take you more seriously. Yes, you're not just a tire kicker or you're not just a nosy neighbor. Okay, so they need to know that they're trying to suss you out anyway. And if there's an upcoming auction, real estate agents will ask buyers what they believe the property is worth. Just keep tight-lipped about your budget. Don't reveal that to anyone. If you have revealed it to a sales agent before now, then that's fine. They could forget. Or, sometimes they just don't pay that much attention. They might remember it. Try not to mention your budget ever. Some sales agents will accept offers prior to the auction and some won't. So just walk through the home before auction and get a feel for who's there. Okay, turning the page, the seller's disclosure statement. So when you're walking into a home in Queensland, the seller is not obliged to give you all that much information. However, in August, we are going to have a seller's disclosure statement available. All right, so this is the draft seller disclosure statement that will be launched on the 1st of August in Queensland. And if this statement does not include information about flooding, that's what it doesn't include information about. However, it does include this information, the seller and property details. And it has got information that the seller needs to give you about any registered encumbrances or unregistered encumbrances. So there's a lot of information. Now, this is draft, so I don't want to spend too much time tripping over it with you. I will, once it's released, I'll put out a very explanatory video about the final one in August. And so we can see what zoning is applicable. See, that's fine. Your property might be zoned in one way, but across the road or next door might be a different zone. So it's still important to have a look at that. So therefore, you've got a lot of things that they must disclose to you in this draft document, as you can see, as we scroll through it. And then this one is part 6, as if it's part of a body corporate, like you're in a set of units or a set of villas. And then you've got the signature of the seller and the buyer. Okay, so it's not a contract, it's just acknowledging the receipt of this information that they must supply. So the seller must have all of this information packed together and the sales agent will give it to you when you go to the open home. That's the plan, and up till the 1st of August. So now you understand that information that I've just described to you on that page. The next one is how to use the inspection checklists. Oh, what fun. So you're at the open home and you've got my checklist. I'm asking you to print the checklist out and keep it on a clipboard. I'm not asking you to go through it and tick it off. I just need it in your hand so that the sales agent realizes that you are serious about what you're doing. You're not a tire kicker or a nosy neighbor. And I want you to walk around, and as you do your video narration, you'll discuss every point on that checklist. Why use a checklist? Because there are too many things you could miss and you only may get 1 or 2 opportunities to visit the home before you have to place an offer, which is incredible. We spend more time test driving cars than we do looking at homes. All right. So you've got your checklist and you want to be incredibly thorough. It's easy to forget many of the property's features, so the checklist helps us to remember. First of all, seek permission from the sales agent. Don't just take photos, take videos. And when you've got your camera, when you're taking your video, set it on the widest lens that your camera will do. And then you can take in as much of the room as possible. So when I take a video, and I will show you a sample video of a home inspection in this module in one of the videos, when I take a video, I make sure that I have the camera straight and it's not wonky. And then you can tilt up and down, left and right, and you can check the ceiling, you can check the floors. This is so important for when you go back later, if you've purchased the home, you go back later for the pre-settlement inspection and something's not right. So you've got that information that you can then say to your conveyancer, look, this wall did not have this dint in it when I was looking at the home, that sort of thing. So that's important, that you are very thorough with. It's just nice not pick the home to pieces when you're in there. You're trying to create a solid relationship with the sales agent. So you don't want to set the other buyers offside by saying, something negative about you. The bathtub is pretty grungy, or I'll tell you what, I'd rip that out and replace that. That's terrible. You know when the time to say that is when you get back to the car and they're still fresh in your mind and you just record another video saying, okay, so these are the things I noticed about underneath the cupboard in the bathroom. And this is the thing I noticed about the walk-in robe in the ensuite, blah, blah. So with the checklist that we've got, I'll just quickly go through to them. So obviously this is a double page spread. You can see if you were walking down the side of the house, you'd see the side shed, the side fence, the side gate, clothes drying area, the roof condition, the gutters and the downpipes, solar panels, tree roots. You're basically just checking out all of this while you're in that location. So then you'll do the same thing, the same list when you go back again at the pre-settlement inspection. Okay. General questions. So you've done your walkthrough. You started out on the street with your 360-degree walkthrough of a 360-degree narration of what the street's like. You can discuss, well, that house next door has got 8 cars parked in the front yard. That's not a cool sign. Different things like that. Or that block of flats is totally overlooking my backyard in your narration. So when you get into the home and you want to speak with the real estate agent, you are interested. So you want to ask some questions. Just remember that they work for the seller. Ethically, sales agents must be upfront with you about any known issues that the property has. However, nicely showing an interest and asking a lot of questions may reveal more information than has been revealed to other home buyers. And one of my little techniques is I'll just stand within earshot whilst I can hear another home buyer asking questions about the home and listening to what information they are leaking to the sales agent. So a good question to ask is, are there any known issues? Like I said, ethically, they're obliged to tell you about issues that they know about. So that's a really good broad question to ask up front. Can you tell me about the age and any renovations to the property? When was that deck put on? Was it put on only 4 years ago or 24 years ago? A good agent will have the answers for you. An agent who doesn't know, the seller might have bought the house 2 years ago and then they bought it from somebody who owned it for 4 years and the deck was put on way before then. However, we must make sure that deck was certified, because if there is an insurance claim coming up, if you need to place an insurance claim, say a tree fell on your deck and damaged it, say somebody injured themselves on your deck. If it's an illegal structure and you don't have to really wait for an event like that, you could have a neighbour who doesn't like you, who's just going to tell the council, I think that they've got a deck that's not approved. Or you might have a council worker who turns up on your property to look at something else entirely. You might have, the council has visuals of properties as well. So just let's not leave it to chance. Ask the agent and ask them why the owners are selling. A good agent shouldn't tell you the answer to that, but some agents are inexperienced or they're not in it for the long haul. They're really just still looking for another job. I don't know, but they'll give away information about their seller. Which, if I was selling a home and I'd already purchased a property and I needed to sell really quickly, I wouldn't want the agent disclosing that information to buyers, because they might go, well, she needs to sell it in 3 weeks, so she can take this or leave it. We need to address that issue. If they give you information on why they're selling, that's great, because then you can help to create an appealing offer by playing towards that information. How many groups have been through so far? Great. Is it owner occupied or tenanted right now? If it's tenanted, you need to know how long those tenants are going to be in place for. If they've just signed a 12-month agreement 3 months ago, so they've still got 9 months on their agreement left, you don't want to be buying that house if you want to move into it before Christmas, sort of thing. So you need to ask that general question. Then you can get more specific with your questions. So how long has the property been on the market? And, if you're doing your homework and you've been on the market for a while, and you've been looking at properties, you'll know how long it's been on the market. You might not. If it's been on the market for a long time, it might indicate issues with the property or that it's overpriced. Sometimes properties just get a bit of a stagnant label on them, and people think, gee, it's been on the market for 4 months. Must be something wrong with it. Has the home ever been flooded? The agent is obligated to answer that question. Where did the flood water come up to? Some people, if they're buying an investment property, they're okay with the flooding. There's been work done so that the power points are up. It's prepared if it floods again, and that's okay. If you're happy to buy in an area that floods, you just need to be completely aware of all of that. Are there any known issues with the plumbing or electrical systems? If you notice that the electrical system looks really old, you're like, how old is it and how safe is it? So asking specific questions, go for it. And if there's not enough time at the open home, say to the sales agent, I'm going to be ringing you later. What's a good time so we can talk about these specific questions that I have? So about the neighbourhood, about legal and financial situations. Are there any easements on the property? You know how to look for easements. Now, we talked about strata schemes in Module 2. You need to have a copy of the body corporate disclosure statement. And within that, you need to know what the rules are. So if I buy my apartment here, am I allowed to have a pet? Do I have to apply to be able to have a bird? What are the rules for using the swimming pool? If I want to update my bathroom, do I have to get permission? Asking those questions. So there's not just understanding the bylaws of the body corporate, but there's also needing to understand, well, how flush is the body corporate? How much money is in the sinking fund? So an apartment I bought for a client recently, they had not much money in the sinking fund, but they had just re-roofed the entire complex. And so physically, the building was in good nick. However, looking through the minutes of the body corporate, you could see that they were on top of the situation and that it was a good and reliable body corporate. You need to see financial statements and minutes of meetings. Try and go back a couple of years. Questions about placing an offer. So if the sales agent says they have multiple offers, it's likely that the home will be sold quickly. And if you want to buy the home, you need to know what's going on. So you need to ask questions. How do you want the offers to be submitted? Sample questions to ask the agent. How do you want the offers to be submitted? How many offers have you received? Are they in writing? If an offer has been made, what are the conditions? Were they subject to finance? This is where the relationship with the sales agent comes into its own, and also the actual sales agent. You can get some standoffish ones who will go, look, I'm just taking the offers. I'll get back to you. And then you'll get some helpful ones who are like, well, we've had 3 offers come through and the seller's ideally looking for a longer settlement because they haven't sold their home yet. But we've had some attractive offers come through. The seller's considering them. You could then say to them, well, so what about those offers? Well, were they subject to finance? Like, what do I need to put on my offer to make my offer appealing to the seller? Because I'm interested in buying this home and I want to be taken seriously. I want to submit a serious offer. And depending upon the sales agent's particular personality, they'll respond to you in different ways. So then you've got a list of questions there. So that the whole goal of that list of questions is to find out as much as you can so that when you fill out an offer form, this is a Ray White one, when you fill out an offer form, you're making it as attractive to that seller as possible, as you can possibly do. All right. So there might be somebody with deeper pockets. You might not be able to do the settlement terms that seller is asking for. However, that's where negotiation comes into it. Okay. So don't be dismayed. Just genuinely let the sales agent know I'm going to put in an offer, but I'm willing to negotiate quite with a lot of flexibility because I'd like to purchase this home. That's the purpose of asking those questions. Okay. And yes, do you have a contract I can peruse? They should have. And quite often nowadays, it's via a link that you'll get texted immediately as you go through the open home. They take down look, do you want to know a tip? When you go into an open home, do what buyers agents do. Have your name and number on a card. And then the real estate agent that takes down your details when you walk into the open home, you can just give them your card. Saves a lot of time. Okay. I digress. Body corporate disclosure statements. Okay. So I know when I said before that when you go into a house, the disclosure statement comes into effect in August of this year. Body corporate disclosure statements, as in body corporate units, villas, etc. There is a disclosure statement in effect. There will be a new one in August, but there is a current one. And so this document here outlines all of the information that you should be aware of. So try to get a copy of the body corporate disclosure statement at the open home. Okay. So this disclosure statement here is regarding a body corporate scheme that's called Aspire Chermside. That's actually the name of the building at Chermside. And so with this document here, you can see the secretary of the body corporate, a manager. You can see the levies that are being paid into the body corporate and to the sinking fund. And it shows a lot of information like that. And it does show lot number 407. And obviously, if you go back to module 2, we cover what body corporate is in a lot more detail. So if we go to page 2 here, then you can see that it's got to be signed by the seller that this is from. So another disclosure statement from a different body corporate, same information, the name of the body corporate, the secretary, the manager, and the committee. So this one's outlining here is the body corporate manager engaged to perform the functions of the committee. No, so the committee in this instance is self-managed. Annual contributions and levies, and then we'll go to the next page. So this body corporate disclosure statement is just different, but it has the same information on it that the seller is legally obliged to provide to the sales agent to provide to you. In August, this will be different, and there will also be one for houses. Thank you for watching this part about inspecting homes. I hope it made a lot of sense, and I'll see you in the next video.